I wanted to ask, which guest on that metal show was the most surprising to you? Like, did anyone come on the show and you really didn't care one way or another about the person, and then you ended up being really interested or interested by them or impressed by them, or did the opposite ever happen? You were stoked about having someone on and they were kind of a letdown.
Well, sometimes, yeah. I mean, some of those guys, Lemmy was on probably 3 or 4 times. Those British guys, they're fucking cranky until they got some booze in them. So Lemmy, we always make sure if we're doing 2 shows in one day, put Lemmy on the second show so he's not cranky. So sometimes, Lemmy Lemmy was amazing. He was totally nice to us, would come on, but he wasn't a great interview because sometimes he would just give 1-word answers. So it was like pulling teeth with him until, it just depended what you asked him, what kind of mood he was in. Not that he was a dick. He never was. It was just like, he needed his Jack Daniels, it's like, okay, no problem. So, no, I don't, Eddie knew all these guys, and I always treated it like I was just happy they were on. And, even I wasn't a big fan of maybe, I don't know, say the band Warren or something like that. I still did all the research. I knew some of the stuff, obviously, and just, treated them with respect. And everybody else, Eddie had such a relationship with all these guys, so they weren't coming on as dicks.
Right.
And plus they're older, and they, that was the Tonight Show for those guys if they had a new product to push. So they definitely they weren't in their 20s anymore where they had an attitude. So yeah, everyone was grounded and down to earth and just be, happy to be on.
Yeah. Who's the most fun you had with off camera as guest, that metal show guest?
Probably Lemmy. I remember me and Don Jameson walking by his dressing room after he just recorded something. I'm like, oh man, he's in there. But and the door was open and he's like, hey boys, you guys want to have a drink with me? I'm like, yeah. So we sat and fucking drank Jack Daniels with him for like 2 hours. It's great.
Everyone has, anyone that's had any interaction with Lemmy, the stories are always amazing. So yeah.
Great guy.
What about Eddie Trunk? What's the biggest argument you ever got into with Eddie Trunk?
I've never gotten in an argument with Eddie.
Really?
Never. Yeah. I mean, Don, I don't even think I ever got in that argument with Don. We just, no, it just, the thing that we'd annoyed Eddie with is our farting. We'd constantly be farting in the green room, in the dressing room, even on set. And it would just drive him nuts. Like I'd always have one in the chamber, like right when we're ready to go, they go 3, 2, 1. I welcome to that metal show, the opening of the show. Yeah. Right when and Eddie would start at 3, 2, 1, I'd let a fart out right then. And he would just start laughing. I'm like, come on, Eddie, will you stop? He's messing that thing up. Now we got to do it again. So he was more annoyed by that. He's like, you guys are just so childish.
One in the chamber. I love that.
Yeah, always have one in the chamber. You never know.
So how did you and Jason meet? Because one time you were wearing a Broken Teeth shirt on that metal show, and I started getting texts and emails from all my friends going, hey, that guy on the metal show is wearing your buddy's band T-shirt or whatever. I got all kinds of text messages, and sure enough, I'm watching, and yeah, you're wearing the Broken Teeth shirt, which I thought was awesome. But how did you and Jason meet in the first place?
I was on I was on the internet one night and I was listening to some AC/DC stuff or something. Maybe I was looking something up and it said, if you like AC/DC, try this band. I think, and I just wound up on the Broken Teeth website or whatever. I'm like, what the fuck? This is amazing. And I'm trying to look it up. I'm like, who's in this band? I never heard of him. And then I saw it was Jason. I'm like, holy shit, I know Jason. This must be a side project. And then like a month later, I was in Austin. I ordered a bunch of shirts, the albums. Jason said he sent it to me. He didn't even know who I was at that point. And when I went to Austin, like a month later, I was doing comedy. I went on the local morning show and I kept talking about Broken Teeth. I'm like, I might get back to him. Hopefully, usually in the town, I'll talk about a band and someone was talking about you on the radio. And somehow Jason heard it and we went up meeting up that weekend and we became friends.
Wow, that's awesome. I love the fact that you were wearing that shirt on the show. That was...
Oh, yeah. I always wanted to get bands like, some up-and-coming bands, pop. People go see that. Oh, Broken Teeth, I got to see what that... Check that band out. If we couldn't have them on, everything had to go through VH1 if they could approve the guests or whatever. But if we couldn't have them on, at least wear the band T-shirt or feature their album and like a little segment and stuff, so...
Yeah. Did anyone ever have to approve the band T-shirts you're wearing? Was there a wardrobe? No wardrobe police.
They told us, like, you guys dress like slobs. I go, this is the way I dress. Like, you're on TV, or I don't care. This is what I dress. I wear
They
this to my
actually
wedding.
said you guys dress like slobs.
Yeah,
They
yeah,
told
yeah.
you?
They go, yeah, you guys dress like slobs. I guess.
I think that
they would give us like $500 each season for wardrobe, and I just go buy concert shirts.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah. Well, from an audience perspective, I think it lends you some authenticity. Not that you needed any, because that's who you are to begin with. But nobody wants to turn on that metal show and want to see a guy wearing an Izod polo.
Well, I know that's what they probably thought. Like, you guys should dress nice. Like that. I'm comfortable in this. So they were fine. They didn't really. But I remember them telling us, you guys dress like slobs. I thought that was funny. On the pilot episode, I wore an Accept shirt. That was fucking great.
Well, you're flying the flag for a lot of people, and they need to realize that you're a voice for the cause.
You know, so what happened a couple of times, I almost got in trouble. It was weird because I guess I got some shirts, probably drunk in a parking lot after the show, you know, the bootleg shirts.
Yeah.
You know, about $5 he's selling them at the last minute or whatever. And I'm like, all right, I'll take it, you know, whatever. I bought one inside, but this one's pretty cool. It's another shirt, like an Anthrax shirt I don't have, even though it's a bootleg. And I didn't realize later on, there was at least 2 bands that I wore a bootleg shirt on the show, and the band saw it, like, Eddie, ask Jim where he got that shirt. We never heard of it. I'm like, oh shit, I got it in the parking lot. They didn't get a cut from it. I'm like, I don't know, a fan sent it to me. That's what I would say. A fan sent it to me. I didn't know. I don't know where it came from. Meanwhile, I'm like, oh shit, that must have been a bootleg that I bought for $5 in the parking lot that they didn't get a cut from.
Yeah, if you buy a shirt for $5, it's not legit.
Yeah, maybe 10, but yeah, you know, when they're selling them, you know, they got them, you know, in their pant leg, you know, you got a medium. Yeah, I got a medium. Yeah, how much? You know, looking around. Yeah.
Right.
Once in a while, I'll buy them if I bought one inside because it's an extra shirt.
Sure.
Yeah. I was looking at your discography, and it's pretty impressive. I don't know if people realize how many albums and books and voiceovers you've done. I mean, it's quite the spread. You're kind of all over the place. How did you get hooked on comedy initially? Who was your hero, or what was the moment? Who did you see on TV or on stage or in the movies and said, I want to do that for a living?
I always wanted to be in a band. All my friends were in bands, and I was a lefty, so nobody could teach me guitar. You know, like, if you're a righty, and I couldn't do anything righty, I'm like, I can't. Like, well, I can't teach you. I went for singing lessons. I went one time, and the woman's like, listen, at the end, she goes, listen, you want me to be honest? She goes, you don't have it. You just don't have an ear for music. She goes, you could keep coming. I could take your money, or, you know, maybe at some point you might develop it, but I just don't see it. I'm like, I appreciate that. And I wasn't bummed out. I just, okay, at least I knew that I didn't have it. And then all my friends were playing in bands, these local bands. I'm like, I want to get on stage somehow. And I was always attracted to stand-up comedy. I always wanted to be my own boss. And I was like, you know, I'm going to do stand-up, you know. And then when I went up one time, I'm like, man, this is what I want to do. You know, just that freedom of just being up there and performing and stuff like that. It wasn't necessarily a band, you know. But then I realized, I don't have to worry about getting along with 4 other members in the band. It's just me. I have to deal with myself. So, but then again, if things go wrong, you can only blame me. I can't blame the bass player.
Right.
Off that night.
How old were you?
25 is when I first went on stage for the first time. I wasn't sure what I was doing. I was DJing. Like, I was DJing at the Bird Show Rock Club. I had my own DJ business. But then I'm like, God, I got to do something. I got to make a move here. And then, you know, I went on stage, and that was it.
So your DJ business, was that like weddings and shit?
I did weddings. I was the metal guy on Friday nights. You know, and then Mondays, I DJ. There was a strip club during the day. I DJ'd that, you know, and then I was on a local radio show just playing like shitty music, whatever, but it was a radio. And then I just and then they were telling me what songs to play. Like at night, the radio show, the radio station I was on, it was a small station. After 6 o'clock, you could play whatever you want. So they gave me a 3-hour shift. So I brought in all my metal records, and I was doing like a 3-hour metal show once a week.
Oh, that's cool.
Me and my 2 buddies. It was fucking great. And then they gave me the morning show there. They go, once you're on the mornings, you got a good voice. And I was only like 22 at the time. And then I had to start playing like adult contemporary rock. I was playing like Elton John. I'm like, this stinks. Phil Collins solo stuff. I'm like, this is terrible. You know, I remember one time I snuck in like I think Aerosmith Dream On, and the program director calls, you can't play that. I go, it's a ballad. You can't play that. It doesn't fit our format. I'm like, fuck this. That's why I was like, I got to get up on stage. I ain't dealing with this shit. I don't want to play Susu Studio by Phil Collins.
No, I mean, you know, I I could start an argument here about adult contemporary music, which I actually really, really like. But
Like who?
I like Elton John a lot.
No, Elton John, absolutely. I didn't mean to throw him in the mix, but Elton John's a legend.
Yeah, I just want to bring up the fact that that even though our guests are mainly metalheads, it's like, understandably, you're a young DJ with a position on the morning show, having to play something that you're not exactly excited about. Period. Sounds like fucking hell.
No, and even when I did weddings, I probably got paid like $500 for a 4-hour wedding, and then they would give you a tip. So it was pretty good money back in the day.
Sure.
And I hated playing those songs. I didn't want to play that stuff because I was a metalhead. I remember guys coming up, hey, can you play, I remember that song was really popular, Buster Poindexter, Hot, Hot, Hot. I go, no, I go, that song stinks. I'm not playing that. Like, come on, it's a good, I'm not playing it. I would argue with people. Like, I'm not playing it. I remember I put Metallica on one time when they were eating. They were fucking mad.
Wow.
I put Orion on. It's a fucking, there's no words.
An instrumental,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
I
Well,
was,
at least Buster Poindexter, at least you were playing a New York Doll.
Yeah, exactly. But that Hot, Hot, Hot was terrible.
No,
it's just like,
it was like,
all over the radio and all that. I'm like, ugh. And they wanted
but
B-52's Love Shack. I'm like, that song stinks.
well,
No.
what did you think about when Dee Dee Ramone went rap?
I don't remember that.
Oh, you're lucky.
I must have blocked it out. Yeah.
Yeah, you're good to go then.
I have it on vinyl over
Yeah,
here.
of course you do.
It's it hasn't been played in a long, long time.
Ooh, it's fucking terrible. I played it for. I had a student the other day at school. They're a big Ramones fan. I go, you remember when Dee Dee went rap? And they went, what?
Yeah.
And I played it for them, and they were like, when was it? When did it get to a certain point where you realized maybe I need a booking agent?
Well, you're always looking for them right away. You think you're great when you first start. You're like, oh, man, I should be on HBO.
And you're
in
not
like 6
really
months.
great. You're just
no, I
like,
stunk. I was terrible.
Yeah, you're just like lucky. I'm lucky. This is fucking awesome.
It's like a band, like, their first song they ever write when they're like 17, they think it's going to be a hit. I'm like, I go, and they're pushing it, the first song. I'm like, don't push that because you're going to burn bridges because wherever connection you think you might have, if they hear that, they don't want to hear anything from you for a while because it's not that good. So they're not going to like,
exactly.
what do I got? But no, about 3-4 years in, I probably pretty much got my first agent. It's funny because I got my agent basically through Don. So Don this is mid 90s. Don was working at MTV at the time. He was booking a comedy show, MTV half-hour comedy hour. And I was doing comedy a few years. I went to like a Christmas party for this comedy club. And this comedian that knew Don, he was on the show a bunch of times. I was friends with him. He goes, hey, I'm going to introduce you to this guy that works at MTV. I think he's going to like you. I had long hair back then. Don had long hair. And he went up to him. He goes, hey, Don. He goes, I think you're going to like this guy. He's from New Jersey. He likes heavy metal and hanging out in strip clubs. And Don's like, really? We sat and talked for like 2 hours. And Don's like, hey, man, I want to come see you do stand-up. I booked the MTV comedy show. I'm like, yeah, I love that. He goes, all right, I'm going to come. I'll set it up at the club. I'll see you, in a few nights. And he went out and saw my set, and he booked me on there. And then I got a college agent from there and an agent and everything else. It was from that being on MTV and doing well and meeting Don. And then Don, he's a pretty big executive at MTV at the time.
Wow.
We talk on the phone. He's like, hey, man, I'm thinking about doing stand-up. I might want to come to one of your gigs if that's cool. Meanwhile, I'm doing like these shitty still rock clubs and stuff, these bars. I'm like, I don't want this big MTV executive. I want him to think that I'm doing really well. And I'm playing these like nice venues. He's like, I'll come to your show. I go, nah, man, this one. And he's like, I don't care, man. I just want to go check it out, see the scene. And I took him to some shit gig and and he's like, man, I could definitely do this. Watching and stuff like that. And we just became friends from there. And then he left MTV and started doing stand-up full time.
Wow. So
but he's the one who actually got me. Once I got that MTV thing, I was on TV. I had a great tape and all the colleges started wanting booking me and I got an agent and they started booking me. So that's how it started. And Don
I never knew that part of your story. I never knew that. Or Don.
Yeah, because I didn't know Don growing up. He grew up in Jersey, probably 30 minutes from me, but I never crossed past him. I didn't know who he was.
Wow, you guys turned around and basically inspired each other.
Yeah.
Wow.